Let's go! What time is it? Gator! It's gonna be a football game tonight now. No doubt. It's gonna be a football game here. Okay. I done been here before. All right, let's go, baby.
9. Rushing 4, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, and it's still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Vaughn Miller did it again.
Alabama back on top of the college football world.
Ladies and gentlemen, football to the max.
Your host, Sean Garmer, Gary Vaughn, and Randy Isbell.
Hello and welcome to another Football to the Max. It's been a week, but this will be the last time that I'm going to say it's been a week for quite a while, as we're going back to our double show format starting with Monday. But guys, anything interesting been happening since the last time we spoke?
Well, we just had the NBA draft where my team had no draft pick, so I could care even less than I was going to.
Yeah, we Cleveland Cavaliers are NBA champions, coming back from 3-1. All the LeBron haters now hate it. You know, they can stop hating. And Cleveland have won a championship for the first time since 1964. So,
yeah, and RG3, can you make it a 2 championship, city pretty soon here? I mean, I don't know. We'll see. If his knees can stay, going, we'll find out. Really for me, you're talking draft, Randy, in the NBA. We already covered the NFL draft, and even WB's doing a draft, and they've already got guys falling in the draft because of wellness issues. So, and this whole support society is successful with, drugs and football, basketball, and of course, now wrestling.
We should have had Randy on there as a special guest on the wrestling show, Gary, and ask him how far Roman Reigns is going to fall in the draft.
He's going to fall underneath Zack Ryder.
Oh.
Oh, man.
So we're talking 7th round picks. Okay.
And for people that, 7th round, I was going to say, people that know me know that Zack Ryder shouldn't even be on the WWE roster.
Wow. Jeez.
Randy, do me a favor. Watch that interview. Renee Young does an interview with him on her show. It makes you feel a little bit better about him to an extent. I mean, he's not so nasty tasting in your mouth. I take that back. Yeah, he is. You just feel better because Renee Young's there interviewing him. Besides that, yeah, he's still a terrible person. Go ahead.
God.
You should hear he treats a guy. He says, "Hey, water man, bring me my water over here." And you're like, totally disrespectful. I was like, that guy. That's what I promised you.
Well, yeah. With the Pittsburgh Penguins have won a championship as well in hockey since the last time I think we did a show as well. So, 2 champions. Thank God we don't do the old show. I would have had to change that intro by now.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, listen, there's not a whole lot of football news going on, but we're going to discuss some of it here. The NFL has announced that they are making a Times Square exhibit with Cirque du Soleil. It is going to be at 40,000 square foot space. It's going to have NFL merchandise, an archive of NFL films that should open in November of 2017. They may even show live games there as well, which they apparently have to get rights from the broadcasting partners and everything else. But the reason for this is because 20% of the people that visit Times Square, I think, are international. So they want to get a piece of that. And the NFL keeps growing, and apparently they're trying to. We know them. They're big in London. They got the game in Mexico this year. They're trying to get into China and all that too. And do you think this helps with any of that at all, or?
Well, we just talked about wrestling. Didn't WWE? I don't know if it's still there, but they had a place around Times Square for years, didn't they?
Yeah, that WWE New York, and then the World and all that.
Yeah, I mean, so sure, why not? Especially if it's going to be this big giant spot. But I mean, if you thought traffic in New York was terrible before, just wait till a Sunday and passers-by just stop across the street to watch a play happen before they finish going across. So a lot of traffic accidents might happen if you put big TVs outside of this NFL setup.
Yeah, that could be a problem. But, I get it. The NFL, they're all about being out in your face. They want to stay relevant no matter what. I mean, it's definitely understandable, but on the other hand, you're like, wow, how far are they going to go? What are they really going to do? But, I mean, the NFL loves the fact that they're stationed in New York. They have all their stuff, primarily, coming out of New York. So this makes complete sense. I mean, just another way to keep people thinking about football all year round. And during the year, it's it really is a circus.
Speaking of a circus, this thing with Joey Bosa's contract and why he has not signed it yet, it's getting really detailed here about how he apparently, I mean, when you get into these like top 15 picks, there's a lot of things you can do with the way that they assess bonuses in the next 2 or 3 years of your contract, 4 years of your contract. The training camp bonus and all that. But apparently one of the big things with Joey Bosa is that he wants to know that he's going to have guaranteed money if the Chargers cut him and he signs with another team. I mean, Jesus, a rookie, and we're going through all this just for him to sign.
Why are you preparing to be cut already? My goodness. But I get it. It's your agent. It's not probably the player. I get that. But, I mean, for my thought process, and Randy kind of touched on this, last time we did a show, and that's the fact that there are limitations on the contracts that these rookies can sign now. It's not so just up in the air, whatever the teams want to pay him. And so he needs to come up with a reasonable situation here that makes sense for both sides, but not expect a ton of guaranteed money. That's just not the way this thing works in general, especially for an unproven player. It makes no sense for the team.
Yeah, just shut up and play. That's what I have to say. I mean, I understand. I'm with Gary. But 80 to 90% of all this talk is coming from the agent, not the player. And most of this stuff from the player is probably getting fed to him by the agent. Like, no, we can get this. We can get this. At some point, you just have to shut up and play. Get it done on the field, and then get the big major contract. You have issues like this now, it's going to reflect your contract talks when it really matters and you can really make the big money.
Well, speaking of contract talks, on a much smaller scale, Cecil Shorts took a pay cut. He was going to make $2.75 million. Now he's making $1.2 million with a $500,000 roster bonus to stay with the team because he was probably going to get cut if he stayed at his salary because apparently Jalen Strong has been going off the chains in the off season, and of course they signed they got Braxton Miller and Will Fuller in the off season in the draft. So Cecil Shorts looks like that fifth guy on the wide receiver core right now, and at least he kept himself there with that team. I mean, should he have tried to go somewhere else? I mean, he's a pretty good receiver.
I think he definitely had that option, and I think there's a lot of teams in this league that would have picked him up and used him effectively. And I get maybe he likes Houston, maybe he likes his teammates, maybe he's a big fan of the coaching staff and the system. So that could be understandable here, but they talk about this all the time. You always hear, former players, coaches, everybody talk about this. You only have a certain number of snaps. And in this league, you better be making the money understanding that. That's why you have so many older players making big deals about their contracts, guaranteed money. Joey Bosa is too young to be worrying about that. He's in the beginning, infancy of his career. But this guy, you're getting up there. You're getting close to being done and playing in this league. You need to find a way to make sure you make your money. Now, if he's not a money person, okay, complete sense, go with the system. This, to me, kind of says two things. He really enjoys being a part of the Houston Texans, and secondly, he feels like that they can win a championship.
Well, I wouldn't really say he's getting up there. I mean, he's only 28, but the thing that I would be more worried about and why I'm really happy, he didn't make a big fuss about it and, restructured his contract for the team is he's never played more than 14 games in a year. He's never caught more than 66 passes in a year. He's a good receiver, but he's not great. And I think in the 6 years that he's been here, he understands his role and taking the pay cut to help his team improve and try to win that championship, which, listen, Houston is in that mess of an AFC South where any four of those teams really could win it. And the AFC is wide open this year. So why not take the pay cut, so other contracts can be taken care of, and then you can keep your roster spot on a team that you feel has a chance.
Now, with his pay cut, Sean, how long was the contract that he signed?
It's 1 year, I think, or at least it seems like it was 1 year.
Okay, so that makes sense. Now, once again, 1 year, that works. So it is smart business decision, especially if he wants to be a part of this team. Multi-year wouldn't have made sense. So maybe my argument is a little bit out of whack here because if my argument is really for the multi-year deal. This is 1 year. He can play for less money this year. Next year he can change his mind and do whatever he wants, get a bigger contract or, continue on this road. But, 28, you're right, is not real old. But on the other hand, in the NFL, 28's getting close to being too old. We don't see a lot of these receivers unless you're one of the top echelon receivers running around at 32, 33, unless you're a proven receiver.
Apparently a lot of hype is going around Chris Hogan there for the New England Patriots. He is the star of the off-season workouts right now, and a lot of people wondering if he could be that guy, the guy in free agency that nobody's talking about that could make the biggest impact, or one of the biggest impacts on the team. Do you think that Chris Hogan could be that guy we're talking about for the Patriots next season?
You never know about the Patriots. They find these guys all of the time.
He was decent for the Bills. He was a go-to guy for Tyrod Taylor.
But I get it. But if he was still on the Bills, no one would care. But now that he's at the Patriots, he's like, well, he's performing well, so the Patriots found another gem. They keep doing this, and it drives me mad.
Okay.
He's not even on the team anymore, but Danny Woodhill still pisses me off. He was a Jet.
Well, let me tell you something, brother, about Chris Hogan.
Knew Gary was going to go there.
This, you should make a hype about your players, and that's exactly what I'm sure the New England media is doing. They're hyping up this guy. He did well with Tyrod Taylor, like Sean was alluding to earlier, and I think he's good. And you know what? He's got Tom Brady throwing to him, so I'm sure he's going to do fine. I'm not worried about him. Is he better than Julian Edelman? No, but at least it can be a good compliment.
Yeah, like I said, he was one of the go-to receivers for Tyrod Taylor last year. It's another guy like Amendola, like Edelman, that Brady can just find through the middle, even Garoppolo, whoever. If he gets that rapport with Garoppolo, that we know Brady has a rapport with Amendola and with Edelman. At least when the Garoppolo was playing, Hogan could be that star receiver right then. So you never know with these things in the offseason. It's always funny to see.
Yeah, these kind of players are going to do that. What were you going to say, Randy?
I was just going to say, and if Garoppolo goes down, Hogan is 1 for 1 in his career. He threw a pass last year.
Yeah. That's true. The important thing for these guys to do is to get focused in this offseason, especially guys like Chris Hogan coming into a new situation, new team. If he gets on track and really studies his playbook, I mean, this guy will be ready to go day one. Just he needs to get through these legal troubles with Gawker, and he'll be okay.
Yeah, so Marquise Goodwin is he's going to be in the Olympics. We're doing long jump for the United States, and of course he plays for the Buffalo Bills, and he would miss training camp time and everything because he's going to be going to do this, and of course there's always that risk of injury as well. But this is a huge deal to be in the Olympics at 25 years old. I mean, that's not a joke, obviously. What do you think about this? This is a smart idea for Marquise Goodwin. He says he wants a second contract, but this is a dream for him.
Yeah, I follow the dream for sure. I mean, why can't a football player do the Olympics, but basketball has their own teams where people get involved, and hockey players go and do the Olympics, and so I'm not going to criticize a football player for wanting to represent his country in any Olympic Games, even if it was to miss a season to go do it. I mean, how many people in this world get this kind of an opportunity? It's absolutely go for it.
I totally agree. I mean, you don't get these opportunities every day. And this is a very short window, and I think he's got to go for it. I mean, this is something that's going to be, just not only important to him, but important to his family. It's going to leave a legacy, and, if he can be successful, boy, I mean, does his, the franchise he's a part of look pretty darn good for having, let's just say, won a gold. I mean, they'd be very proud of it, wouldn't they? So I think it's a good situation.
Yeah, totally. I understand that from a logistical standpoint, this could have hurt his chance of making the team or whatever. But man, you got to go with some of this. This is a once in a lifetime type of thing. If you're not a Olympic athlete all the time, and you got to go for this if you have the chance. Now, this is a little bit of preview of what we're going to be doing in our wide receiver core draft on the Monday night, Tuesday on the Tuesday morning show. But Jamison Crowder already challenging us to make a decision here. He says the Washington Redskins have the best wide receivers in the entire NFL. What do you think about what he says here? I mean, Josh Dotson, Pierre Garçon, Deshaun Jackson, Jordan Reed, Vernon Davis, Niles Paul, and Crowder himself, who caught almost 60 balls last year for 600 yards. I mean, that's a heck of a group there.
I love them, and they're definitely my top five. I haven't honestly sat down and evaluated the entire, roster yet of all these teams, all the wide receiver cores out there, the updates. But I'll tell you this right now, just as we talk about it, I mean, top five, top three, they're definitely in that conversation for me.
And just looking through some of the stuff, might have a man.
They are deep.
They are. I mean, not even just deep, but I mean, the front is still pretty good too. And just some of the wide receiver cores, there's no way they're better than them. They've kind of fallen off in the offseason, actually, now that you actually kind of look at depth charts. So I don't want to say I'd put them in my top five yet, but come Monday, I might.
Yeah, man. I might have to say that too. It's just, and don't forget Logan Paulson. If he's if we got all those guys around, we're talking about three solid. You got great Jordan Reed. You got a very solid, still Vernon Davis, and you got another good Logan Paulson. That's just your tight ends. Then you got all the receivers. I mean, and don't forget, you got Chris Thompson there at your running back, who's basically that out of the backfield back that they throw to all the time. So, that's talk about having a ton to play with there for the Redskins as far as that goes. So it's that time right now for us to do this running back draft, very similar to the way we did the quarterback draft on the previous show. We'll be doing this running back draft, and apparently I have to go first here. This may seem like the cop-out, but I still have to say, until this guy proves he is not the number one backfield, or the number one back in the league, and then both of these backs here, let's not. Adrian Peterson is still the best back in the league for me, but let's not throw shade at Jerick McKinnon and Matt Asiata. Matt Asiata comes in very well for the Vikings, and it spells Peterson, and McKinnon is great at, you can put him out there in the slot, or you can have him just catch passes in the backfield. I still think Minnesota has the best core in the entire league. Who's Gary? You're number 2.
Gary.
Oof. This is tough. I have a couple teams in mind, and looking at this list, I mean, there are some good backfields here. It just really all depends on the guys that are backing up the number ones. And looking at this, I mean, I have to say there's a team that I look at and say there's a 1-2 punch that it's really hard to beat in this league. And I may be ranking them too high. I mean, you guys are probably going to hate me by the end of this draft, but the one team that I look at and I say, man, I just love the 1-2 punch, and even the third couldn't be too bad. I'm going to go the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Le'Veon Bell, I mean, does his job very well. D'Angelo Williams proved he's the number one back in this league. It's just that, guess what? I mean, he just happens to back up this other guy. So I'm going to go Pittsburgh.
I just figured one of you were going to go Dallas and could make my choice really easy.
Oh, McFadden's hurt, so.
I understand, but I just figured one of you would be homers. So, because I had Pittsburgh and Minnesota 1-2. And I was hoping one of you would take Dallas too early and make me happy. So now you make my decision very difficult. Yeah, I'm between a couple. I mean, as you said, McFadden hurt, but Elliott and Morris is a great 1-2.
You got, I think you got an easy one on a team that you may not like, but they play in their own division.
No, I'm not going there. They're not even between the two that I'm bouncing between. I want to go with one team, but it's just a one-man band. I'm a little worried because he did get hurt last year. I'm going to go, actually, you know what? I'm going to Arizona Cardinals.
Ooh, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
David Johnson is great. I mean, he showed off some amazing talent last year. And you add him with Chris Johnson, who just refuses to get old, and have him, be the backup and, not have to carry as large of a load and make the impact, and Andre Ellington as well. So that trio to me spells danger still. So I'll take Arizona.
Man. I'm going to... This is not an easy thing to go through and go, okay, we're going to pick this team because, these two were almost unstoppable last year when you have both of them playing as a 1-2 punch. And, you can get McCoy to come out of the backfield and catch passes. Gillislee did pretty well, and you got Boobie Dixon there too, who wasn't too bad. So I'm going to go with Buffalo. That's my number 4.
You know what? I don't care. Call me Homer. What? I just look at the Dallas. I look at these running backs and I like them, and we're not even including Lance Dunbar in this equation. He's going to be on PUP, but if he comes back in the season, and we're just basing this on some of the names too. I mean, Dunbar is an excellent option out of the backfield. When Dallas, even when they were not very good, had him, they were at times pretty unbeatable. So I love it. Elliott's young. We don't know he's unproven, but I don't care. With McFadden, with Alfred Morris, I think this backfield is amazing.
All right, well then, go ahead and yes, you have injury concerns on this team as well, but I think his backup showed that they could do the job perfectly. Give me Kansas City. Jamal Charles still might be one of the better running backs in the league. Kendrick West and Spencer Ware did just fine as backups, so a quality running back trio there in Kansas City.
You took mine, Randy. Damn it. I'm going to go with Tampa Bay. Listen, Doug Martin, Charles Sims, they complemented each other perfectly last year. And then you got Bobby Rainey, if he's ever allowed to actually return a kick, he's dynamite in that return game, and he's pretty decent as far as if you need him in a pass catch situation as well. So
that was the two teams I was between, was Kansas City and Tampa Bay. At some point, I took Arizona with Chris Johnson, but at some point Doug Martin is just going to remember that he's Doug Martin.
Well, you got to hope if you sign him to a 5-year deal, if you're at Tampa Bay, that's not the case. But, Gary?
I'm trying to make my evaluations here, and really there's some tough decisions out here to be made because of the fact I'm looking at a couple teams that I really like, but maybe I'm being too much of I don't want to say a homer, but I like these running backs maybe a little bit too much just because I'm kind of a fan of them. But, I think I found a team that I kind of like the running backs actually quite a bit. It's maybe too high once again, but I love Carolina's running backs. I think, Jonathan Stewart proved that, hey, when he stays healthy, he's a great back. Even some of these other guys that they have, even Fozzie Whitaker can take care of business at times. So I'm going to go Carolina.
Yeah, I would move them way higher if we could count Cam Newton as a running back.
Yeah, sure.
Oh man, there are so many that are just in a clump for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I'm going to take a team I think is going to be on the rise. One guy that I think everyone hates to say right now because a lot of people drafted him last year in fantasy football and he completely just fell apart. It seems like he's in way better shape now. Give me Green Bay. They still finished top 10 in running with Eddie Lacy struggling all year. James Starks is a great number 2. John Crockett could jump in there and do some great things. But I really think Eddie Lacy is going to bounce back from last year and go back to the elite running back status that we all thought he was at.
I think when you're looking at cores completely, not just the lead guy, and they are definitely a core. They run pretty much, you don't know who they're going to run, and then they add a guy in the draft that could replace one of these guys, and then you have someone that's kind of been off the radar, and I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos. I mean, you got C.J. Anderson, you still got Ronnie Hillman, you got Devontae Booker, who you drafted, and Juwan Thompson, who's been dynamite apparently in that offseason. Denver's got a solid core, looking at that.
I'm going to stay with the AFC here. And I think this team is definitely one of those what we say on the rise once again. I think it's a core that is yet unproven once again, but I love the names on this core. You got to say, Tennessee with DeMarco Murray coming into play, Derrick Henry, a guy that, was a big fan favorite in this year's draft. I mean, and you can't forget Andrews as well.
And they got McCluster back there, too.
Oh, yeah, another name.
Yeah, just a lot of good runners there. So I'm going to go homer here. The Jets always have a great running game. Adding Matt Forte in replacement of Chris Ivory, I think, is a stalemate. Yes, Forte is getting up there in age, but Bilal Powell is one of the most underrated running backs in this league. The guy should be a starter somewhere and has been delegated to the number 3 spot a lot of times for the Jets. He's great out of the backfield and just an all-around wonderful player. And then you get Kyrie Robinson, who's that change of pace back that they're going to have back there too. So to add a lot more speed than what the first two give. So I think the Jets have a great 1-2-3 punch.
When you're looking at another 1-2-3 punch, I think you got to look no further, especially the 1-2 punch of the Cincinnati Bengals with Jeremy Hill and Giovanni Bernard. These two have proven that they work tremendously well together, and if not, each one of them can take over games, and Rex Burkhead can be a guy you put in the slot and you pass the ball to if needed. So, going to go with them.
I like it. I like it a lot. And you guys are really making my life hard. You really are. And, kind of evaluating some of these other teams, I think, once again, you got a cluster of guys, proven guys, unproven, guys mixed together. But you know what? I look at a team that's still, once again, a young team, but some of these players that, actually had an ability to showcase their talents last year make a lot of sense to me. So I'm going to, believe it or not, I'm going with Jacksonville. I love Chris Ivory. I'm maybe too much of a fan for him. Yielding did okay for himself last year as well. So, some good names on that if you ask me.
Really thought I was going to get a Jaguars sweep, and I was taking them next. I've taken them everywhere else. I like them too. Oh, geez, you suck.
Sorry.
All right, so give me, I think, the best talent left on this board. I think the reason they've dropped so much is we are doing running back cores. So give me the Los Angeles Rams with Todd Gurley. I do worry he was hurt a little bit last year. Will that become a thing? And if he does get hurt, can Trey Mason and Benny Cunningham do anything? They really didn't last year in his absence. But Todd Gurley's too good to let this team drop to the bottom half of this list.
You took mine again, Randy.
It's Gary's fault. Gary took mine.
So, now we certainly are getting into the thick of it, I think, here. I think the only other one that I can really say, okay, we're looking at cores. Oh, man. It's between two here, and I think I'm going to go with the ones that are proven. I'm going to go with Atlanta with Devonta Freeman. We know what he did last year, and Tevin Coleman is not bad when he's had to be there for Freeman on the back end. I don't know about their third running back, but the top two are very, very solid.
My turn again, huh? It's always tough.
It comes quick.
I know, because I'm sitting here looking and thinking, okay, why? I have a team I'm looking at right now that I really want to pick, and I keep second guessing myself, and I'm probably going to talk myself out of it. And you know what?
Do it unless it's a team I want to take.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave them to you. And here's the reason why: because there's a rookie that got drafted onto this team this year that I think is going to make a lot of waves, and people are going to be like, oh my God, where did that come from? I'm going to go with Baltimore. Justin Forsett's on this team. He does pretty good, but I think Kenneth Dixon is a steal in this year's draft. I think he's going to make a lot of sense for that Baltimore team.
I like it. And especially on that kind of offense, it'll work. I'm going to go with a team where they traded for a player, or maybe it was a free agent. Maybe I'm getting things mixed up. It's been a long off season. But this player was on a team last year that I feel they just never wanted to give him the ball. I know I have a buddy who's a big fantasy player and was a fan of this team. And every Sunday I would get texts of just freakouts because he would go out and get 60, 70 yards in the first half and then get 2 rushes in the second half. They would just completely give up on him. And that's Lamar Miller for the Houston Texans. So you add him with Blue, who has proven that he is a decent enough running back, and around that team, that I think will be a little bit more balanced. I got to take them, so I'm going to take the Houston Texans.
You saw me staring them down, Randy.
Was that the team that you almost took?
That was the team I almost took.
That's funny.
Oh, I don't know. You got some here that are just. It's difficult because you don't know what the team's going to do
right.
with that.
I'm sending team names to both of you because I have the steal of this whole thing if you let this team drop to number 21 to me. I'll tell you right now. Just don't take it.
I'm going to go with, if this guy comes back healthy, he was their everything last year, and then you have that power behind him, and the guy who's slotted third was a decent backup for them. He made some key plays in that playoff stretch too. I'm going to go with the Patriots here. If Dion Lewis can be Dion Lewis again, and you know what you get from LeGarrette Blount and James White.
Sean stole mine. Jerk. Okay. I haven't seen Randy's message yet, so I'm going to have to... this is tough. This really is because you're getting down to the nitty-gritty. And teams that have maybe so-so guys. I'm looking at a team right now that I think may be a little underrated.
Leave them alone.
Are they in the Northeast?
No, take them.
Okay.
Let's take that.
Then I am going to go with a team that I like when it comes to basically players that I think, had proven themselves to an extent, but then kind of got left in the dust a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and do it, and I'm not going to leave them to the very end here, guys. For the first time, I think, in our draft, we're not going to let them go last. Philadelphia with Ryan Matthews, Darren Sproles. I love Sproles. He's got a lot of things going good for him. And, of course, they got a good rookie there on that team. So I'm going to Philadelphia.
Yay, Philadelphia. Congratulations. We gave you a shout-out. Okay, so mine's a bit of a surprise, maybe. But this team lost somebody. And I really think, even though a lot of people think it's going to be a downgrade, I think it's a huge upgrade for them. I'm taking the Seattle Seahawks. I think Thomas Rawls is better than what Marshawn Lynch was giving them over the last couple of years. In fact, I was looking at stats, and he ranked 6th in rushing average last year. Yes, he did get hurt. It's Christine Michael behind him, which isn't the most sexy thing. They have this young CJ Prosise, which may end up being the backup, but I think Thomas Rawls...
Don't forget Alex Collins back there from Arkansas.
Oh, an Arkansas boy. But I think Thomas Rawls is an upgrade from Marshawn Lynch, especially at the age that Lynch was. So I think Seattle still has a great running game. They finish in the top 5 in several of the last years, and I don't see that really dropping. So give me Seattle.
Is it my turn again?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oof. Some of this where we're also having to go off of, you know what? These guys were, it's just, okay, I'm going to hope, and I'm going with this on hoping and praying that, number one, their lead guy doesn't get injured, and number two, and their number 3 guy actually plays worth a damn. Even, he was signed, he's supposed to be this elite guy you can use in the passing game and all this stuff, and I'm talking about CJ Spiller here, so I'm going with the New Orleans Saints because Mark Ingram has been nothing but solid, and Tim Hightower was very solid in his stay when he got hurt. Just that CJ Spiller, man, ugh. They would be higher if CJ Spiller would actually do what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go ahead and stay in the NFC. I'm looking at a team here that, I'm not so sure, but then again, I think that they got the potential to be awesome. I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears. I think Jeremy Langford definitely, as a starter can do a lot, and of course with Jordan Howard added to that, I think they could be pretty good.
You went with the Bears.
The Bears.
The Bears. All right, I'm going to go with the team. I like just picks that surprise even me when I get down to taking them. This was actually a running game that I thought was going to be great last year. It was far from. But I'm taking the San Diego Chargers. Danny Woodhead, a two-headed monster, 81 receptions last year. and was decent out of the backfield. I swear to God, Melvin Gordon's going to score a rushing touchdown next year, since I called it every single preview last year and it never happened. So he's going to get at least one next year. Give me the Chargers.
Oh boy. Yeah, we're down to it here. You know, I feel like
throwing the ball now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just
a lot.
Like throw that dart. It's gonna be somewhere. You know what? I may get some. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna. What RG3 back there? Duke Johnson, Isaiah Crowell were actually decent when they could get some running room, and Duke Johnson proved to be one hell of a pass catching running back last year. I don't know about past Crowell and Duke Johnson, but those two could be a nice combo if RG3 can make them work.
You know, I think I'm going to have to go to the AFC now, and I'm looking at a team with a guy that maybe is old as dirt, but he still does his job pretty darn well, and two backups, and you know who I'm going with. That's right, Indianapolis with Frank Gore, and Robert Turbin taking that backup role, which he's pretty good too. I mean, I like him, okay, and Todman's not bad himself.
All you had to say was old as dirt, and I was already highlighting.
I knew you were. I saw it. I was like, yeah, he knew. He caught it.
So I'm going to take a team that I think is going to be on the rise next year. We just talked about them earlier on this podcast with their possibly top 5 wide receiver core, and that's the Washington Redskins. Matt Jones is a young up-and-coming running back that I think is not getting rated as highly as I think he should. Chris Thompson is another one of those running backs that has crazy speed and is amazing in the receiving game as well. So, I mean, you give me a team like that with some receiver options that they have, so maybe some holes are going to open up, and give me the Redskins.
Oof. Yeah, well, I don't have a ton left to choose from here. You know what? Abdullah made a lot of strides last year. Theo Riddick is a monster in the passing game. And Stephen Ridley's okay. But,
and Stephen Ridley's on the team.
Yeah, exactly. Is Drake Bell still a free agent, or is he with the team again?
No. Let's see.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything.
He's still unsigned. He's still unsigned.
Well, if he somehow resigns with the Lions, then they probably should be higher. But he's not with them now.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to go out west and hang out with another Drake Bell. But yeah, good. A guy who plays guitar pretty well. San Francisco, to me, has a guy that's underrated, Carlos Hyde. I love him, and I think Sean Dragas is not a bad backup either.
Well, I'm going to stay out west for my last pick, and I'm going to take the Oakland Raiders. Latavius Murray has some bright spots. I don't think he is still that number one back. I think he would work better as a number 2. But Tywan Jones is okay. Roy Hulu has been a disappointment for most of his career, but give me Oakland.
I go with the Giants. Rashad Jennings has been okay. He's been fine. He's been what you need him to be. Shane Vereen, I think, has been a little bit disappointing. It's the pass-catching guy. They haven't used him enough, and I think Paul Perkins can be a surprise. Actually, the Giants really probably should have been a lot higher because they got that Orleans Darkwa who was pretty decent in the couple of games that he played last year. But new offense, new different coordinator, who knows? Maybe that running game finally wakes up.
Yeah, and listen, I'm right there with you. I think talent-wise, I think the Giants should have been a lot higher, but it was like every time I almost picked the Giants, I just remembered that they throw the ball. I mean, that's just all they want to do is throw the ball and throw the ball and throw the ball. And yes, we should be looking at this with talent, but you guys still have to remember what's around them, and they just ignore the running game so much. So I agree with you. I think talent-wise, they're a lot higher.
And I get left with Mr. Irrelevant, which is the Miami Dolphins. Jay Ajayi is the only name on this that is decent, and outside of that, you're just kind of left with a big question mark. So I think that's why they're kind of irrelevant when it comes to the running game.
Yeah, pretty much. That's when they lost Lamar Miller, they kind of lost a lot of their running game, period. So, they are kind of what they are. And that's going to do it for our running back draft.
And what's interesting about this whole thing, and just thinking about this, free agency is still taking place. We're doing this a little earlier, but that's fine. This is just for, to kind of see where we're at. But, it's kind of funny. Some of these, depth charts are going to change a little bit by the time we get to, August and September.
We still haven't even had training camp yet.
Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really cool to see how this all evolves.
We do have one question from somebody in the W2M group that sees that I put this podcast in there, and he actually asked it the last time, but we'd already finished the podcast by then. They're still doing that top 100 players or whatever. They're still going through 1 through 20, I think, right now. And I think last year J.J. Watt was number 1. He asked, what do you think about what if J.J. Watt is number 1 again? Do you think he deserves that spot?
Yeah, I don't see why not, really.
Do you think J.J. Watt's still the best player in the NFL?
If not 1, he's at least top 5, so I wouldn't be upset if he's number 1, I guess, is the best way to put it. I don't think it would be a crime.
Yeah, the argument here is because not only is he one of the best pass rushers in this league, which makes him one of the best defensive players in this league, he's also a great offensive player, a guy with awesome hands. I mean, honestly, let's think about this. If for some reason this team was so deep at defensive end and they already had guys of his talent on both sides of the defensive ends, they could easily put this guy at tight end, and he would probably be as good as, I would even say, the top 10 tight ends in this league. I mean, he's just that good. He makes leeway. He's got a body size. He's probably a decent blocker when they do have him block. So how could you say a guy that plays both sides of the ball at a high level in the top league in the entire world, which let's be honest, not many players do that. So, yeah, he's got to be the best.
And I guess really my main question would be, who would you have ahead of him?
That's the dual purpose thing kind of throws you off in a way because of that. Because really, you name anybody that, Todd Gurley, amazing running back, does just outstanding things, but all he does is run the ball. He may catch it, but that's all offense. He doesn't do anything else to help his team. Whereas J.J. Watt, he does 2 roles.
Yeah, it's true. Man, it's hard for me to say who I would put. I guess you could throw a name out there, but it's just like, I kind of agree. J.J. Watt has been, he's been consistent for that team. He didn't have the amazing year last year, but he still had a damn good year, And when you're looking at the team for this year, you're saying, okay, well, they got better offensively in almost every facet, so that has to help the defense. And that has to help J.J. Watt be able to, let's say they're going to actually be playing with a lead more. So guess what that does to your defense, right? That makes it easier for J.J. Watt to go after the quarterback because, they're going to be, the other team's going to be passing more.
Yeah, and, it's hard to evaluate this, especially when, one of the better players in this league isn't even playing, and that's, Johnny Manziel. So taking him out of this equation really hurts us,
Well, see, I mean, before Gary brought up that wonderful human being, I was just going to say, I mean, I think the only people that you can really put in the J.J. Watt category are a couple quarterbacks. And, I mean, Tom Brady's getting up there in age, and he's still supposed to miss the first 4 games, so you can't really look at him. Aaron Rodgers, maybe. you can put up there. Cam Newton, maybe you can put up there, but Watt is still the best defensive player in my opinion. I mean, he's won the award 3 out of the last 4 years. I mean, you have players like Von Miller and Luke Kuechly who are obviously on the rise and will be threatening to take that best defensive player in the league title away from him. But for now, I can't see anyone else that you could really give it to. And with the quarterback core kind of falling down a peg or two, I think J.J. Watt might be the most valuable player to any team. So I can see him number 1.
Fair enough. Well, that's going to do it for the show today. We'll be back on the Tuesday morning edition with a wide receiver core draft and whatever else is going on in the news as we get closer and closer to starting that. Next week we'll be doing our previews, doing some interviews with some Last Word on Sports writers hopefully, and all that stuff. And thank you to Last Word on Sports for being in partnership with us, even though we really won't really post on the podcast until we start doing those previews again. But hey, it is what it is right now. This is kind of that dead part of the off season, when things are happening. But guys, Randy just had a new backlog busting project come out, so explain away.
Yeah, on our latest episode of the Backlog Busting Project, we finished up the best of 2015 month. Well, the games that came out in 2015 month, because Wes did play I Am Bread, which I would not list in my games of best of 2015, but that's neither here nor there. I played the wonderful Ori and the Blind Forest, and we both played the wonderful Choose Your Own Adventure horror movie that was Until Dawn. And actually, if you go to the Backlog Busting Project on YouTube, I just started releasing my Let's Play series of me playing Until Dawn. So if you want to see the choices I made, spoilers, they sucked. Many people died. Go ahead and start checking that out over there.
Well, Gary, I mean, we just finished doing another podcast just a little bit ago.
Yeah, Wrestling to the Max is a show that me and Sean do. All wrestling talk. We talk about every promotion you can think of under the sun, besides like the small indies. We did a lot of Roman Reigns talk, of course. I joked about him earlier, but Roman Reigns got suspended, so if you're a wrestling fan, you want to hear us talk about that, we get in depth with that with our co-host Paul Leeser. And we also talk about the brand split, some things going on in WWE, plus a lot of other big things. So yeah, go check that show out. If you're big into wrestling, you got some fans who love wrestling, go check out Wrestling to the Max.
Now, my question to you two, because I haven't gotten a chance to listen to it, because I was catching up on TV shows with a girlfriend while you guys were recording that. But were you guys able to do like a bracketology yet of that Cruiserweight Championship tournament? Or did they not come out with a bracket yet? Even
they're not releasing those brackets until the July the 6th when they do their own bracketology.
But but the first round got recorded already? Is that what I was
right,
meant
the
to
first
understand?
round got recorded.
Okay.
But they did not release like the seeding or you don't know what that looks like. It's just the matches.
Well, it's disappointing because I would like to see that because I watched that Facebook Live thing that they did, and it was I came up with the people I thought were going to be in the finals just based on crowd reaction. That's all I could go by. So.
Yeah, that's exactly how I went by with it too. It seems like it's going to be Ibushi and Zack Sabre, but we'll see. There was already the guy that replaced the guy already got injured. So that's how these things go sometimes. But yeah, so we'll see you on the Tuesday show talking the wide receiver core draft and whatever else is going on. Of course, subscribe to that WTM network. You can rate and review this podcast and all the other podcasts that are on that network, either by rating the network itself or just by rating this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever else you listen to us on, which we are now on SoundCloud as well, so you can listen to us there. All the podcasts, the whole network is on SoundCloud. Now, we don't have all of our archives there, so you have to go to Spreaker or wherever else you normally listen to us, but if you're a SoundCloud listener, From the moment we joined the service, which was about a couple of weeks ago, we have everything on there. So, all right. See you later, everybody.